Well, hello there. I'm Bradford Becker. Welcome to our program. This evening we continue on into our 22nd year of broadcasting Red Barn Radio, and we welcome you to show number 851. Can you believe that? Isn't that crazy? Our guest tonight has a place in the top echelon of international guitarists. Her musical curiosity and proficiency have her freely moving between multiple genres, from classical and jazz to bluegrass and fingerstyle. In fact, the extraordinary artist on our stage tonight also became the first woman to win the National Fingerpicking Championship title in 1989. Welcome to Red Barn Radio, Muriel Anderson.
Thank you, Bradford. Great to be here. Well, I guess I'll kick off the show with, kind of the usual sort of thing, a tune that I wrote after eating a lot of baklava and dancing Greek line dances the night before. So I'd written the whole song before I realized it was in 13/8 time, and so I call this one A Baker's Dozen. Well, yes.
Good evening and welcome to Red Barn Radio. Wherever in the world you're listening, welcome to Roots Music Southern Style. Thanks to WEKU, Red Barn Radio's official radio partner, NPR for Central and Eastern Kentucky. Listen online at weku.org. Red Barn Radio is supported by Visit Lex, Lexington, Kentucky's Convention and Visitors Bureau. More information on what Lexington has to offer is at visitlex.com. LexArts, Lexington, Kentucky's premier cultural development, advocacy, and fundraising organization, working for the development of a strong and vibrant arts community as a means of enhancing the quality of life in Central Kentucky. Follow Red Barn Radio on Twitter and like us on Facebook. Here's the host of Red Barn Radio to tell us more about tonight's performers.
In her 30-plus year career, Muriel Anderson has captivated audiences across the world. She's recorded with country legend Chet Atkins, performed with Les Paul and countless other greats. She also lives an artistic life and has undertaken a range of unique and creative projects, from a CD of lullabies, which received 11 national awards, to a project channeling her love for all things culinary called Acoustic Chef, which is a CD of international music bundled with its own cookbook. Muriel's new release is called Sailing Dreams and was inspired by a sailing journey from Fire Island, New York to Maine that she made with her partner Brian Allen, who happens to be here this evening. We're so glad to have Muriel and Brian with us here for you tonight.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Bradford. You'd mentioned the Lullaby album. That's the double album, one to go to sleep to it and another album to wake up to. So since I did a wake up one, I'll do one of the pretty go to sleep ones. And on the album, I had written it and arranged it for an entire band with vocals and everything. And I realized on the 20-string harp guitar, I can play all the parts. And I found a way to play the little harmonic-y part and the melody and the bass all at the same time. So this is one that I call Nightlights. Thank you. That album led to a lot of things, a lot of unexpected things. It was called Nightlight, Daylight, and I had a special concept for the album cover where it lights up with fiber optics. So I wanted to hire a great artist to do the album artwork, and I discovered this artist named Brian Allen and hired him to do the work. Well, in the process, well, we fell in love, and we've been together ever since. But I didn't know that he was a sailor at that time. So I ended up on the water, and I'd never thought I would be a sailor. So he invited me to go on a long sailing trip from the South Shore of Long Island all the way up along the coast of Maine. And just before leaving on this trip, I had a dream that I was at the helm of his sailboat, and there was this music playing in my head. And when I woke up, I could remember the melody, the lyrics, the harmony, the two guitar parts, the bass and drums, every detail of the song. And as I went about to reconstruct it, I realized, I think this trip is going to result in an album, which it did. And this is the song. I did change 2 words in the first verse and some in the second, so I do consider myself co-writer on this one. This is Sailing Dream. I'd like to sail the world again, feel the wind across the waves, live from day to day, where life is not predictable, wondering what is round the very next bay. I'd like to raise the sails again, watching for the whales again, and never have to say, I wish that I had done the things that I can't do when I'm too old to play. To breathe again, love again, laugh again, love again in real life. Stay alive throughout the tides, worst of times, best of times, follow right behind. The mainsail is unfurled again, to be part of this world again on my time. I'd like to pull the anchor in, sail to where I've never been, with sunset on our lee. Awaken to the sparkles on the water, then I'm feeling free. To jive again, tack again, I am now back again in real life. I'd like to sail the world again, feel the wind across the waves, live from day to day, where life is not predictable, wondering what is round the very next bay. I'd like to raise the sails again, watching for the whales again, and never have to say, I wish that I had done the things that I can't do when I'm too old to play. I'd like to sail the world again. Ooh. I'd like to sail the world again. Thank you. As we were sailing, it seemed like the whole way the wind was going in quite the wrong direction. You know how that happens? We were tacking back and forth, and finally when we got as far as we wanted to go in Maine, wouldn't you know, the wind switched direction. So finally we tooled around those islands for a while until a storm came through, and Captain Brian said, well, at least the wind is going in the right direction. And we followed that storm and thought I would write a song to the wind, beseeching it to go in the right direction. Now, I wanted to have somebody with a sailorly voice sing this with me, and I called Vince Gill, and he was going to do it, except that he called me and said, look, I'm touring with the Eagles. I just don't have time to do that. So I thought, well, who can I have? And then I asked Captain Brian, Brian, do you think you can sing with us? He's never sung on radio before. Would you do it? Yes. Okay. Well, you just sing on some refrains with me, and then this is Captain Brian with me on.
I prefer to sing this in the high C's, but
yes.
I'll make an exception.
Favorable winds. That's good. Favorable winds accompany my journey, won't you smoothly ripple the sea? Like a touch I remember, sure and steady, then I'll soon home. Blow, won't you be favorable winds? When we left Fire Island, come a rainy east wind, we were tacking our way along the shore. A Montauk fisherman waved us in, and Block Island blew their horns. Mornings are golden above the splash of my oars, as I rowed back to our Grampian sloop. Though Cuddy Hunk beckons with old shipwrecked shores, and the vineyard that Martha once grew. Blow, won't you be favorable winds? Favorable winds accompany my journey, won't you smoothly ripple the sea? My sails gentle and full, then I'll soon home. There have been blustery storms, there have been days much to come. Give me a steady wind on the beam, for the point of sail I'm on. The swift woods hold current to Buzzard's Bay, we shot through the Cape Cod Canal. Wind against wave made white horses play, as seagulls plunged into the swell. Then came the crossing by day and by night, accompanied by dolphins and whales. Tired and glad to see Monhegan's light, but onward through Maine we would sail. Between foggy islands we bided our time, till the buoy whistle would moan. Alas, when the easterly finally arrived, 'twas a gale that would bring us back home. The surf was raucous, the winds were whistling, hour after hour at the helm. Many a wave splashed over the side, but we followed that storm just as well. Is my home on this Grampian sloop? Is my home on the sea? Is my home that cottage on shore, or will it soon heavenly be? Favorable winds accompany my journey, forever at the nose may you linger no more. Won't you be fair? My sails are ready, then I'll soon home. Like a touch I remember, sure and steady, then I'll soon home. Oh, thank you, Captain Brian, joining me here. Well, I remember that we were anchored between two islands, and it was Seal Trap Cove, and I was awakened in the middle of the night by the sound of an owl. And then another owl answered. So I just laid there listening to those two owls singing melodies back and forth to each other. They were singing in minor sixth, just like that. Then I remembered this was to be the night of the Perseid meteor shower. So I opened the hatch, and the sky was filled with stars. There was a shooting star, another, it was more shooting stars than I'd ever seen before. The moon had come out. It was shining over the water, low in the sky. And I looked around for Captain Brian. I didn't see him. He had gone out. He also had been awakened by the owls and taken his long exposure lens, rode out to take some photos of that night sky. And I only saw it, the bioluminescence lighting up every oar stroke in the water as he rowed back to the boat. Thank you.
Wow. That kind of took me away, Muriel.
Oh, yeah.
In a different place right now. Our guest this evening is Muriel Anderson. Muriel has just released a new album, which I'm very excited about. It's called Sailing Dream. She's been talking about it a little bit. It's just out this week, and you can get your very own copy on Muriel Anderson's Bandcamp. You want to get it on a Friday, though, of course, because Bandcamp Friday is when sales go directly to artists. So make it a Friday, get out there and find Sailing Dream. I want to hold up a couple of things which are very cool. So first of all, I have in my hot little hands the copy of Sailing Dreams. Are you able to see that? this a good angle for you? And then I also have the bonus feature for the extra expanded version of Sailing Dreams includes the CD in this box. And you know what else is in this box is a cool game that Muriel developed.
And Brian.
Did you do this with Brian? Okay,
Yes.
great. And there's too much about it to tell, but you got to check it out. I know you can read about it. I think on the Bandcamp, there's actually a link which will take you to a place that gives you all the details about what's in the box. And I think it's very cool. So there you have it. Whoop, there we go. Those are the most recent things she's got going on. I'm going to tell you about a couple other things later on. I want to get some conversation with Muriel. Muriel, that was, that last song, Perseid, was just crazy. I just loved it. And it was beautiful with you telling the story.
Well, it was such a
While you're
long
playing.
story that it took too long to tell it before before I played it. So I just thought I'd tell it as I played it.
was-
Did that work for you?
It worked for me.
Oh, good.
It was beautiful. It was just beautiful. And I was wondering, you know, when you were playing early on, the first part of the song where you're talking about the owls,
Yep.
there you were striking some low notes.
Yep.
And you continued on the high notes. I was imagining the high notes being the main part of the guitar, being the water
Yes.
going, and then the low notes, the strum of the low notes being the owl. I don't know if these were screech owls or if they were, you know,
It was a barred
the
owl.
barred owls.
That's the
And
that's
it
the
really,
barred
and you
owl.
really were able to nail the tone.
I was playing their melody, so they wrote that melody. I owe them royalties on this song, and it was really a fun challenge to capture not only the sound of the owls and the sound of the shooting stars, but the way they made me feel, and so the way that those owls melodies came into harmonies and built into other melodies to express the way I felt as I was listening to them.
Well, I mean, what an amazing instrument that you have for expressing feelings. You know, you've
Oh,
got
yes.
sort of the full range of feeling there with three, you know, practically three necks, basically, two necks, and then all of the other strings. Talk to people a little bit about the harp guitar.
Well, I had originally started looking for a harp guitar when I was writing songs that were just requiring extra low resonating bass strings, you know, strings that weren't on my guitar. I kept on reaching for strings that weren't there. So I'd seen a picture of a harp guitar that was built between 1890 and 1920 in Chicago by the Larson brothers. And I said, that's an instrument that'll make that sound. And so I had one built for me. And this one is a little unique in that it has steel strings, extra trebles as well, and nylon strings instead of the traditional steel. in
So
the
most
regular part.
most harp guitars do not have the metal strings.
Very few have the high strings on the top, and very few harp guitars have nylon strings in the main part. And I had originally had it designed just as a travel harp guitar that I could learn to play on. And then I discovered, wow, it has this whole different sound. It has this sweet lute-like sound in that range, and I really have come to love it.
Well, it must just be really it's a masterful piece of engineering, really, that that all of those metal strings are mounted where they are on the face. I mean, the bracing underneath must be extraordinary, because that's the hard. Those are the ones pulling the hardest on the wood,
yes.
by far.
I also had designed for me some attachable super trebles, and they're built by Lucas Brunner in Switzerland. He's calling them Muriel trebles, and I have them now for sale on my website, so you can attach them to a regular guitar. You can turn your regular guitar into a harp guitar by adding those trebles. And also I can add them to a standard harp guitar that doesn't have the extra trebles when I want that extra sparkle.
Wow! So you can add the attachment to a harp guitar,
Yes.
and turn it into a sort of XL harp guitar.
And you can even add it to a regular guitar.
Huh.
Yes.
How neat.
To get some treble. So
I
we've
love
been
that.
having fun with that.
I love that. All right, so your last couple of tunes, "Sailing Dream" and "Perseid," were about your trip, things that sort of inspired you from the trip that you took.
Yeah, the whole album was inspired by the trip, and the whole album is completely autobiographical. It's capturing moments or experiences that we had on that trip.
And I'm curious for you to kind of retell the story of how this dream became the song. And I was struck when you said, I remembered. You
yeah.
said the dream made you remember. And I somehow I think of dreams as sort of pulling from the past, but also sort of predicting something. But this was
a unique dream. This is only the second time that's happened that I remembered so much of the song in such detail, and that it was a better song than I could have written myself. You know, and it was a real challenge and fun to recreate it, because in the dream it was not me singing it. It was this beautiful voice that sounded kind of like Susie Bogus. And I just ran into her by chance in a parking lot in New Jersey, and just as I was thinking of how do I put together this tune, and she agreed to sing it. So it's just such an honor and a thrill to have her sing it, and to hear the voice that was really in my dream on there.
Wow, very neat. Now, you met Brian you met Brian how long ago?
It's been 10 years ago
10 years,
since
okay,
we did
great.
the Nightlight Daylight CD. Yes.
Nice.
How about that?
And did he introduce you to sailing? Was he a
Yes.
sailing enthusiast 10 years ago?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And so, yes, I never thought I'd be a sailor. There's a song about that as well in the
Yeah.
on the CD.
And so was water kind of a foreign thing too? Did you grow up on the water? You were on
my mother grew up in Cape Ann, and so we went there every year swimming. So I always loved the ocean and the coast, but had never been sailing outside of a short trip on Lake Michigan, one day. So it was a completely new thing for me.
And so this trip took place just a couple of years ago, or?
Yes, yeah.
Wow. And what was the length of the trip from New York to? Were you beyond you were up? You said by Monhegan, Bar
yes.
Harbor. You went past Bar Harbor.
Yes, right. In the middle of
And-
Penobscot Bay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. And it was about 6-7 weeks, and which was for Brian that wasn't long at all. As the sailor he is, for me it was a real adventure. And we even had a time where we happened to anchor next to this schooner from 1871. And we only saw it when the fog lifted, and then all of a sudden this majestic schooner appears anchored near us. And I said, Brian, let's pretend we're pirates and row over there and take over the ship. And he said, okay. So we rowed over, and I yelled out, who's your captain? We're taking over the ship. And to our surprise, this man came over the side and said, I'm Captain Noah, and I need a day off, so come on board. So we climbed up the rigging, and I was armed with my little parlor guitar on my back. And so I took out the guitar and started playing, and to my surprise, he took out a guitar and a harmonica and played along with me. He was a blues player. And so we wrote a song about that whole experience. So we played until the sunset.
Boy, how lovely. I would love to hear him tell that story.
Yes.
From his perspective. All of a
Yes.
sudden, there's this little rowboat, and there's this woman down there yelling at us. I didn't know what to do.
Yes, so many experiences went into that. So I said, well, we have to capture that. And my good friend Phil Keggy helped me to make it really bluesy. And Mark Kibble, the great singer from Take Six, is singing the pirate part on there. So it was a great fun.
So in the course of the trip, did you feel like you were stretched? It's
Yes,
a long time to be out.
It happened in 2 trips, actually, and the first of the 2 sailing trips was during the pandemic. And during the pandemic, I felt like I had lost the muse. I couldn't write any music. It was like gone. And so it was this dream that reawakened the music, and the sailing trip that brought the music back, brought the muse back. And it seemed like the further we sailed, the further we were going back in time.
And tell me about what you have learned about sailing. Do you feel like after doing that long of a stint on a sailboat, do you feel like eager to do it again? Or
Oh, yes, I had asked Brian, hey, can we do it this year? And yes, we're going to sail back up to the coast of Maine this year. So
You're gonna do the
any
same
of you
trip?
Mainers? I'd like to do the same trip. I enjoyed it so much.
Is there anything you would have done, anything you might have done differently? Something you'll do this time that you, this next trip that you didn't do the first one?
Every trip is different whether you want it to be or not, because the weather is different each time, and you anchor different places, you meet different people. And it's wonderful in that you're changing your backyard every day. So you've got new scenery, new people, and new adventures all the time.
Any weather adventures on this trip?
Oh, yes, definitely weather adventures.
Talk us through one.
Well, the one was that we had, we were trying to escape an oncoming hurricane, actually, the day that we had run into the Stephen Tabor. So we had gone in to hide from the winds. The Stephen Tabor, that schooner, had gone into the same place that we happened to hide from those winds. And but the bumpiest part was the part on favorable winds, where we were following the storm. The waves were higher than I was used to, I tell you, coming back.
Were you afraid ever?
Yes, yeah. But it's one of those things that after you have a great experience, after somehow you forget that, and then you want to do it again.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It's a weird thing that you forget how afraid you were the last time.
That's beautiful. Love for you to tell us about the next tune you're going to play. Is it Sailing? Is it the one that we were talking about? Sailing
to Yesterday?
To Yesterday?
Well, I wasn't going to play it, but I could play it.
Is
I
that,
think
that
that's,
one,
yeah.
man, that would be a treat for me.
Yeah.
I listened to that tune, and you said it when you were talking about the last tune that you wrote about, like you were sailing back into the past.
It really felt that way. The further we went, the older the fishing villages seemed. They seemed like they were just the same as they were 100 years ago, 150 years ago, 200 years ago.
Huh.
And it was just so refreshing in this day and age to go back, to feel like you're in a time machine going back in time.
Yeah. Do you find yourself to be a nostalgic person, a person who sort of longs for something that used to be? There just seems to me to be in the lyrics here. There
Yes.
seems to be like a pining for a more contented time or something.
I think I'm creating nostalgia doing this, creating those moments that we're going to look back upon and say, wasn't that an interesting and a great time?
Huh.
So I think that's what it's about.
And are you game to play that tune for us?
Sure.
I would love that. Hey, let's welcome back Muriel Anderson.
Yes, it was hard. Yeah, thank you. It was hard to find singers to sing with me. I wanted this to be a whole bunch of shanty singers, and they were all out sailing. And so finally had to wait until they came back from sailing. So if you feel like singing along with me on this, I really need a whole bunch of shanty singers along with me on Sailing to Yesterday. The last of provisions are packed in the chest, except for some biscuits and rum. One is for Neptune, and we'll take the rest. God willing, the seas don't roll over us. Sailing to yesterday, leaving today. Soon as the tide starts falling, an outgoing currents will carry us away. Sailing to yesterday. The ship is now ready to sail away east, prevailing winds on the beam. Back to the way that life used to be, we rely on the wind and the sea. Leaving the cares of today on the shore, leaving the carousel spinning. Listen to old men retelling the lore, the story's beginning. We should be coming to Cree Haven now. There through the mist, a harbor. Fishermen loading their traps in the dawn, same as their fathers before them. Sailing to yesterday, leaving today. Soon as the tide starts falling, then outgoing currents will carry us away. Sailing to yesterday. Every small village we visit on shore seems older than the village before. Further down east, Old English is spoke, and there is no lock on the door. Sailing to yesterday, leaving today. Soon as the tide starts falling, then outgoing currents will carry us away. Sailing to yesterday, bound for Maine, bound for Maine. Thank you.
Thanks for playing that.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, all your shanty singers singing along with
I
us.
was
and-
singing a little bit.
Yes, I'll
That's
take up
beautiful.
my other guitar.
All right, what do you have coming up next?
Well, I'll grab my flamenco guitar.
Lovely.
Yes, this was given to me by Tierra Negra, a duo from Germany who I've recorded with. Tierra Negra guitar, and I'd written a tune in their style, kind of this rumba flamenco style, that I call Fantasia de Fuego. Thank you. I was laughing as I was playing that because I was remembering that middle section. When I had originally written it, I had envisioned right where the guitar goes with the melody and the bass there, that there would be this kind of Lorenzo Almeida style lead guitar up on top. And I heard at that time that Lorenzo Almeida was living in Los Angeles. And so I went to the payphone. Do you remember payphones? Okay, that really dates this song, doesn't it? Well, and I called the operator. I said, is there a Lorenzo Almeida in Los Angeles? I'm just curious. And she says, well, I'm looking here. Oh, here's one. I'm connecting you. I said, wait. And he said, Mr. Almeida? Yes. And I said, I just wrote this song that's calling for your playing in the middle. He said, oh, thank you. And I said, I'm going to Los Angeles next week. And he said, well, I'll pick you up at the airport. We'll go to my studio and we'll record it. And I said, what? Okay. And so I gave him my itinerary, and I'm on the airplane thinking, maybe I should have looked up a photo of him. I had no idea what he looked like. I'd only heard his music. So nevertheless, I arrive at the airport, and there's this man ready to meet me, and I'm thinking, wouldn't Lorenzo Almeida be just a little older than that? I'm thinking, what is wrong with this picture? And he seemed, kind of middle-aged. And so we are in his car on the way to his home studio, and he says, well, I'm so happy you want me to play cello on your album. And I went, oh no, it was Valdemar Almeida, no relation. And, what do I do? So finally I had to fess up and tell him, but I said, but it's okay, we'll just jam and it'll be fun. And sure enough, it was. He was a great cellist. He played with the symphony, and we had a wonderful time. I'd never thought of playing with cello before. So we had a lovely time, and then he brought me back to my hotel where I was staying. And then a couple years later, I got to thinking about it, and I'd written an entire album of music for guitar and cello. It's all published, called New Classics for Guitar and Cello. All the music is published. And I eventually looked him up on a return trip to Los Angeles, and we did a live performance, a live radio show of the new music that had been written for guitar and cello. Yeah. And I could play one of them that we recorded. And are you interested in how these are composed at all?
Yes.
Yes, that was a big yes. This one, I had heard a Bach piece that was such a beautiful melody. And I heard that it started on a note, it went above the note, below the note, and came back to the note. And I said, aha, that's Bach's trick. So I chose this note. That's an A, and I went above it, below it, wandered away, and then back to it. Okay, so that's my inspiration from Bach. And then to that, I just added a descending bass. I said, okay, descending bass sounds good with everything. So I thought I was done, and then I realized, it needs something in the middle, something maybe a little more dissonant, like da-da, a little ascending voice in the middle. So that's going to be my little motif in the middle. Da, da, da. So listen to that middle voice. Da, 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 da. Now a different one. Da, 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 da. Whole bunches of them. Da, 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 da. And then it goes up high. Give it just a moment when it goes up high like that. And then it wanders down to da-da, more of those. Now I'm tired of A, I'm gonna go to D. Still doing the same thing. Da-da, da-da. Still doing those voices in the middle. Da-da, da-da, da. Half step higher, da-da. Okay, now it's building, still building until, oh, that was so pretty, I'm going to do it again. So pretty, I'm going to do it one more time. There we go, now it's coming down more lightly. Da-da. Now, I later decided to change it to go to the key of E. And this is kind of improvisatory, a little freer, just wandering around in E. So I know it's going to be easy to get back to A. But instead, I'm going to go to A minor. Da-da. That way the cello can have something to saw away on, be really emotional. So this is all cello solo. Da-dee-da, this is the cello. Ya-do-da. Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da. Sounds very cellistic, doesn't it? And then we're going to go back to the major. Highest note, give it a little more time. Now it's going to end right here. Nope, not quite yet. It's winding up here, right here. Nope, not yet. Building, building, until right here. Not quite yet. I call that song Arioso. Thank you.
Okay, listeners, now let's all try it home. Ready? 2, 3.
Yeah, so it's just kind of walking through the creative process, the thinking bits.
That's beautiful.
But, you know, another great composer was John Philip Sousa. He just wrote some amazing things and a great arranger. If you listen to his horn parts, how he arranged those, just amazing. He was my grandfather's boss. My grandfather played saxophone in his band. So I thought I would do a tribute to my grandfather and also tribute to Monty Python's Flying Circus. This was the theme song written by John Philip Sousa, The Liberty Bell.
That's great. Well, our guest this evening on Red Barn Radio is Muriel Anderson. We've got lots more music and conversation with Muriel. But first, I'd like to take a moment to remind listeners that Red Barn live streams, both tonight's and on any Wednesday, remain online and convenient for you to view in your own time, along with live audio streams, compliments of WGAD.net in Central New York. Please don't miss a single episode of our program. You don't have to be here Wednesday nights. You can get it anytime. And be sure to tell your friends. Share what you like about Red Barn Radio. It means so much. Our guest next week on Red Barn Radio is Katie Burkhart. Katie is a lover of all things folk and alternative and a true-to-heart singer-songwriter. She grew up around music and art, taught herself how to play guitar, among other instruments, and dove headlong into her musical passion at a young age. She's now just 26, paving the way to what we think will be an exciting career for her in music. I know she's looking forward to sharing her songs with you. You're going to enjoy Katie singing a lot, and we'll certainly have some fun conversation. That's Katie Burkhart for her first time on our program, in studio and on our live stream, 7 p.m. Eastern in North America. Back to tonight's Red Barn Radio program. We welcome you live on our social media platforms, broadcasting from the Arts Place Performance Hall here in the grand city of Lexington, Kentucky. Welcome back, Muriel Anderson.
Thank you. I'll do this tune that was inspired when astronaut Susan Helms took my heartstrings cassette up to space with her. And when I saw the images that came down from that, I wrote this tune. It's called View from Space. Well, you had mentioned the Acoustic Chef book. There's only one song on there that the song came before the recipe. So usually I wrote the songs to go along with the recipes from all different countries. But this is one that I had written when we found this old reel-to-reel tape. And it was, when I took that out, I said, what is this? And my mother said, oh, that's film from 1929. Your grandfather had one of the first home movie cameras. And when we put it on, we realized that that was during Prohibition, and it's no wonder it was their vacation to Canada. And so when I saw this tape with images of my grandfather walking into a bar and staggering out, walking into another bar and staggering out for the amusement of his neighbors, I thought, well, this black and white silent film needs its own music. So I wrote this, and I call it A Fine Pickle. And yes, it does go with my mother's pickle recipe. Thank you. I'm remembering on our sailing trip, there was one time we were anchored at Monhegan Island, and it started raining, and the raindrops on the deck made not only a rhythm, but a melody. And so I grabbed my carbon fiber emerald harp guitar and ran up the deck trying to capture the sound of those Raindrops, and I think I got pretty close to it. So I think they sounded kind of like this. But in the recording that I did it, I double-tracked the super treble parts. So, Brian, do you think you can come up here and play the super treble parts when I get there? It's right towards the end. There you are. Okay. Yes. Got it. Yes. So this may be a 3-hand version by the end. All right. So this is what the Raindrops were playing. It's called Rainy Harbor. On the super trebles.
Oh, wow. Boy, if you would have tried to capture something on that guitar that resembled the rain we had yesterday, you would have to go upstairs and just fling it down onto the wood.
Wow.
And yeah, it was crazy yesterday.
Wow, it wasn't that gentle rain that we had that day.
No, not the gentle, beautiful rain that you depict there. I got to believe that Chet Atkins would just have adored a fine pickle. You know, that's great. Just so much fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would love to hear you talk a little bit about some of the folks who have mentored you and been your friends in your path to play guitar.
We have lived in such an amazing time in music, and I just have had the great fortune of learning from some great people. I was taking mandolin lessons from Jethro Burns out in Evanston, Illinois, and I played this tune called Nola for Jethro, and he said, well, you got to meet my brother-in-law, Chet Atkins. So it turns out that Jethro and Chet had married identical twin sisters.
Jethro and Homer.
Burns. Homer and Jethro duo.
Right.
From the National Barn Dance in Chicago.
Yes.
Yeah, so they were all playing out there. Chet was playing out there. That's where they met. So, Jethro made the introduction, and I met with Chet, and he played some tunes for me. I played some tunes for him, and he said, well, I'll send you some tunes you can play for your hotel gigs. I wasn't playing concerts yet. And I didn't think it was going to happen, but he sent me a tape in the mail, tunes I learned and recorded on my first album on Heartstrings.
So he sent
So-
you, did he sit someplace in his living
He-
room and
in
play
his-
them for you?
In his basement. He sat in his basement, recorded, and some of them have been released on something called the Basement Sessions. I think a couple of the tapes that he sent me have been posthumously released, and as part of those sessions. Yeah. So it was a real honor, but he just seemed like an uncle, and just so unassuming, and he had friends from everyone from past presidents to the guy who sold T-shirts out of the back of his car. And then it was on WGN Radio Chicago, another radio meeting that I played a tune, and there came on live radio. There's a caller on line 1. It's Les Paul, and he came. I'm Les. I'm listening on the radio. I built myself, and I really like your playing. And if you're in New York on a Monday night, come sit in and play with me. And I did many times, and he told so many great stories backstage. I thought we have to do something to honor him in his lifetime. So I put together one of my all-star guitar nights. I rented the Ryman Auditorium in Nashville, which I've done 3 times, I think, for these guitar nights, and just planned to honor him. And I said, well, when I was backstage with him one day, I said, I'm going to do a show to honor you. Would you like to come? And he said, yes, but I'll only play if you'll hire my band. And I said, you'll play? I was astounded. And he did, and he played great. We hired his band, and he and I co-hosted it. So it was just great. And what a legend and a fun guy. And he, too, had lots of friends. So I wasn't alone there. But Andre Segovia was different. Yeah. When he came to Chicago, I thought, if I were touring all that time, I would want something homemade. So I made him a giant chocolate chip cookie in the shape of a guitar, and then put on frosting, "We love you, Segovia," from Chicago. And I just wanted him to feel appreciated. So I brought it backstage and handed it to the lady and turned around to walk back, and she said, no, you bring it to him. I said, what, me? And so I got to go backstage and meet Segovia, and he said, chocolate chip, my favorite. So after that, every time that Segovia came to Chicago, I always made him cookies. And he would just call me the cookie lady. He didn't know I played. I was just the cookie lady.
Wow.
Yes.
And you also worked with Christopher Parkening.
Christopher Parkening was my big inspiration in classical. So I came to classical kicking and screaming. Well, not exactly kicking and screaming, but reluctantly, because I love bluegrass. I was a big, Bill Monroe, Doc Watson, Flatt and Scruggs fan, and played in a bluegrass band. And they didn't have a bluegrass major at that time, so I reluctantly went in to study classical, thanks to Andre Segovia. That's why I was so thankful to him. But over that summer, I heard the music of Christopher Parkening, and that's what really grabbed me, his phrasing and his incredible tone. So I was mostly inspired by him, and then later got to study from him.
Huh. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, what a path, that you found yourself on.
Yeah, and Doc Watson, of course, was my very first guitar influence. He was the one who just made me fall in love with the guitar. I saw, how could anything be so passionate and real and have so much feeling, and I would run home from school to learn every song on his CD, and he helped me through my adolescence. I really do think. Yes. And many years later, when we met and we had a chance to play together, and I gave him my music, he told me that he would listen to my music to help him sleep at night when he was having a very hard time, and so it was this kind of circle coming back. So just a wonderful compliment, even though my music wasn't intended for that initially.
Yes, right.
Still a great compliment, and I dedicated my Arioso CD to Doc.
Sweet.
He was such a great influence and a master.
With the last few minutes we have, I would love to hear you talk some about some of your I don't know if you call it, they're not really side projects, because they're all sort of integrated with music, which I love. But I would love for you to talk about some of your, not only your concept things that you do, that you add to your music, but also about your nonprofit a little bit.
Yeah, there's a certain point you feel like you have to give back, because all these great players and people who I learned from just in the parking lot, and so many wonderful players had given of their time and been so gracious and helped me to learn and helped me to become who I am. You have to give back some way. And there's a lot of kids who don't have the opportunity. They don't have an instrument. They don't have somebody to teach. And I thought I would start a foundation to do that. And in the process, I found out there's a lot of organizations already out there trying to fill that spot because the schools aren't doing it. They're not teaching bluegrass in the schools like they should. Every kid should learn to play a musical instrument in school. And I figured what we would need is a support network for them. So I created an alliance. I call it the Music for Life Alliance. So a lot of my concerts and various things will benefit that. And we just give small grants to organizations like Guitars in the Classroom and W.O. Smith, great organizations that are doing wonderful things for those kids.
Wow. Well, thank you. It's great that you're doing that for kids. Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
sure.
I mean, really. So, yeah, it just seems to me that what you have to share is just a love of learning. I think it seems to me that you value the importance of play.
Oh, yeah.
And that you must have play in your life, and
Oh,
thus
absolutely.
thus the game. You've created a game that goes along with Sailing Dreams.
Right. Actually, if you want to learn about the game, the best place is murielanderson.com/sailing. And
Yeah.
that'll give you everything
And
you
it'll
need.
tell you all the details. You really must go there and check it out. Maybe we can set a link up on Facebook for you to do that. The other
Okay.
project that I wanted you to talk just a little bit about is your food project. How did that come to be? You love cooking as well.
Well, I'm
Another
fortunate in
thing.
that Brian does also. And it's something that I've wanted to do, for 30 years, I have to say, because when we travel around, we discover some amazing recipes, because when I travel, most of the time I stay in private homes. So I very rarely will stay in a hotel. So people, especially when I was traveling by myself, people would take me under their wing, and I'd get to know the people. I'd learn a little bit about the language and about the cuisine, and I'd always ask, if I found something wonderful, I'd go into the kitchen and ask, okay, how did you make that? So I've been kind of collecting these over the years, and Brian also. And so we put these together, and of course you have to have a song with each recipe.
Yeah, and thus, here it is.
Acoustic
This
Chef.
is the Acoustic Chef, and this is the book that you can get, I guess, bundled with the CD. You can get just the CD, right?
Actually, you can't get just the CD right
Oh,
now.
okay.
As far as I know.
Okay, so it's a combo.
It's a combo,
It's the
yeah.
whole package. So
Unless it's available, online. I'm not sure.
yeah, well,
It's not my department.
Okay, gotcha. Well, this is something to check out, and Muriel's other stuff. We're so glad you all could come. Brian, your first appearance on radio.
Brian's first radio appearance. Yeah.
I think we'll.
Had to happen.
Yeah, I think we'll give him certainly a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, and
I would say.
some people don't know that Brian plays a little harp guitar, too.
All right, and all right, that's cool. And Brian, you're also a photographer, aren't you? If you would
I heard
mind
someone laughing somewhere.
about photography, who would laugh about photography?
No, about this little thing.
Oh, it's
he
a
plays.
little.
It's a harp-a-lele. Actually, we call it a little harp guitar. And originally we started touring, doing an audio-visual show so that Brian could do more than just carry my guitar, So he does puts his beautiful artwork and visuals on a big screen behind me. And then somebody had given me this lovely harp-a-lele, and Brian picked it up and started playing it. And so this is a new thing, and
Very new.
yeah. So would you join me on it
So,
too?
are you saying, Mark? Sorry, Brian. Are you saying you're not going to be shredding?
I won't be shredding, no.
Oh, okay, that's all right. That's all right. It's the first time we've had that instrument on the program, so
Yeah.
welcome. Great to have you back, Muriel. Go ahead.
Thank you. I wrote this after going to Hawaii for the first time. Called Hawaiian Lullaby. Thank you. Brian Allen on the harp-a-lele there. Well, being that we are on Red Barn Radio, I guess I should do a bluegrass tune for you here, but I don't have my bluegrass guitar, so instead I'll just imitate the sound of a clawhammer banjo here. Now a little 5-string. you. Hopefully you heard a little bit of all the instruments in the band there. Well, I'll do just a couple more here for you, or one more, I guess. This is the one that I played on WGN Radio Chicago, and this is the one that introduced me to both Chet Atkins and Les Paul, this tune, yeah. My mother used to play it on the piano all the time. It's called Nola. So this is in a different tuning. The super trebles are tuned with zither tuners on this side and violin tuners on the other side. And on the sub basses here, I have tuners from folk harps that I could change a half step at a time, and then banjo tuners over here. So I've got all different tuners on this instrument to keep track of. So don't worry, only 19 more strings to tune, and then I'll be ready to go.
At least it's not a banjo.
That's right. Okay. Here we go. This is Nola.
Well, there are so many people to thank for our broadcast. First, our guest, Muriel Anderson, for tonight's program. We want to thank all of you for listening to our webcast, watching us on social media, and those listening to us on the network, the growing network of Red Barn stations. Thanks to WEKU, Red Barn's premier radio partner, Central and Eastern Kentucky's radio news leader. You can listen online at weku.org. It's your chance to hear more great live music from Red Barn Radio and WEKU, NPR for Central and Eastern Kentucky. Those of you here in the Central Kentucky area, you got to be sure to check out Red Barn TV. It's our weekly program of music, now on ABC 36 WTVQ. Red Barn Radio comes to you from our home, the Arts Place Performance Hall in downtown Lexington, Kentucky. Our website has updates and further information on our guests in our program. We're on the web at redbarnradio.com. Now, before we close out tonight's program, let's bring back Muriel Anderson for one more item for us.
Okay. Well, I'm going to tune my harp guitar here to Dadgad tuning, D-A-D-G-A-D. Actually, this instrument is tuned up higher, so you'd call it, I guess, EBGB tuning or something like that. And this is a tune that was written on board Brian's Good Ship Avocet, inspired by the vision of hot air balloons sailing by. So it's called Let Loose and Fly.
Muriel Anderson. Well, that's all for our show for this week. You can see and hear Red Barn Radio worldwide as we stream live on the web on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch Wednesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern in North America. And it's always great to hear from all of you who listen to Red Barn Radio's archive performances on your favorite streaming platforms. Speaking of you listeners, please, before, during, and after you enjoy Red Barn Radio, take just a moment to engage with us. Your comments, your sharing, and certainly your choice to subscribe matter so much. Will keep us growing and continuing our mission to bring roots music, Southern style, to your neck of the woods and beyond. And now we bid you good night. Let's stick together, let's appreciate each other, and let's join up again next week for another great evening of music and conversation on Red Barn Radio. I'm Bradford Becker. See you next time.